Hi. Dennis from World Weird Web here. In this video we will talk about the 9 deadliest viruses ever. From the Ebola virus that kills up to 90% of the infected to the much dreaded H.I.V. virus, here are 9 of the deadliest viruses on Earth. Number 1. Ebola. Ebola virus disease (EVD) is a viral hemorrhagic fever in humans and other primates caused by Ebola viruses. Signs and symptoms typically start between 2 to 20 days after contracting the virus and starts with a fever, sore throat, muscular pain, and headaches. Vomiting, diarrhea, and rash usually follow, along with the decreased function of the liver and kidneys. At this time, some people begin to bleed both internally and externally. The disease has a high risk of death, killing up to 90% of those infected. The virus spreads through direct contact with body fluids, such as blood from infected humans or other animals. Spread may also occur from contact with items recently contaminated with bodily fluids. The disease was first identified in 1976, in 2 simultaneous outbreaks, one in Nzara, a town in South Sudan, and the other in Yambuku, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a village near the Ebola River from which the disease takes its name. EVD outbreaks occur intermittently in tropical regions of sub-Saharan Africa. Between 1976 and 2013, the World Health Organization reports 24 outbreaks involving 2,387 cases with 1,590 deaths. Number 2. Marburg Virus. Marburg virus is a hemorrhagic fever virus of the filoviridae family of viruses, and a member of the species Marburg virus. Marburg virus, or MARV, causes Marburg virus disease in humans and non-human primates. A form of viral hemorrhagic fever. The virus is considered to be extremely dangerous. The World Health Organization (WHO) rates it as a risk group 4 pathogen, requiring biosafety level 4 equivalent containment. In the United States, the NIH, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, ranks it as a Category A priority pathogen, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention lists it as a Category A bioterrorism agent. It is also listed as a biological agent for export control by the Australia Group. The virus can be transmitted by exposure to one species of fruit bats, or it can be transmitted between people via body fluids through unprotected copulation and broken skin. The disease can cause bleeding, hemorrhage, fever, and other symptoms similar to Ebola. Funeral rituals are a particular risk. Actual treatment of the virus after infection is not possible, but early, professional treatment of symptoms like dehydration considerably increases survival chances. Number 3. Rabies. Rabies is a vaccine-preventable viral disease which occurs in more than 150 countries and territories. Dogs are the main source of human rabies deaths, contributing up to 99% of all rabies transmissions to humans. Interrupting transmission is feasible through vaccination of dogs and prevention of dog bites. Infection causes tens of thousands of deaths every year, mainly in Asia and Africa. 40% of people bitten by suspect rabid animals are children under 15 years of age. Immediate, thorough wound washing with soap and water after contact with a suspect rabid animal is crucial and can save lives. WHO leads the collective United Against Rabies to drive progress towards zero human rabies deaths by 2030. Number 4. HIV. HIV continues to be a major global public health issue, having claimed more than 32 million lives so far. However, with increasing access to effective HIV prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and care, including for opportunistic infections, HIV infection has become a manageable chronic health condition, enabling people living with HIV to lead long and healthy lives. There were approximately 37.9 million people living with HIV at the end of 2018. As a result of concerted international efforts to respond to HIV, coverage of services has been steadily increasing. In 2018, 62% of adults and 54% of children living with HIV in low and middle-income countries were receiving lifelong antiretroviral therapy (ART). A great majority, 82%, of pregnant and breastfeeding women living with HIV also received ART, which not only protects their health but also ensures the prevention of HIV transmission to their newborns. Due to gaps in HIV services, 770,000 people died from HIV-related causes in 2018 and 1.7 million people were newly infected. Number 5. Smallpox. Smallpox was an infectious disease caused by one of 2 virus variants, variola major and variola minor. The last naturally occurring case was diagnosed in October 1977, and the World Health Organization (WHO) certified the global eradication of the disease in 1980. The risk of death following contracting the disease was about 30%, with higher rates among babies. Often those who survived had extensive scarring of the skin, and some were left blind. The initial symptoms of the disease included fever and vomiting. This was followed by the formation of sores in the mouth and a skin rash. Over a number of days, the skin rash turned into characteristic fluid-filled bumps with a dent in the center. The bumps then scabbed over and fell off, leaving scars. The disease was spread between people or via contaminated objects. The origin of smallpox is unknown. Smallpox is estimated to have killed up to 300 million people in the 20th century and around 500 million people in the last 100 years of its existence. As recently as 1967, 15 million cases occurred a year. The term smallpox was first used in Britain in the early 16th century to distinguish the disease from syphilis, which was then known as the Great Pox. Number 6. Hantavirus. An orthohantavirus, or hantavirus, is a single-stranded, enveloped, negative-sense RNA virus in the family Hantaviridae of the order Bunyavirales. These viruses normally infect rodents, but do not cause disease in them. Humans may become infected with hantaviruses through contact with rodent urine, saliva, or feces. Some strains cause potentially fatal diseases in humans, such as hantavirus hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome (HFRS) or hantavirus pulmonary syndrome (HPS), also known as hantavirus cardiopulmonary syndrome (HCPS), while others have not been associated with known human disease. HCPS is a rare respiratory illness associated with the inhalation of aerosolized rodent excreta, urine and feces contaminated by hantavirus particles. Human infections of hantaviruses have almost entirely been linked to human contact with rodent excrement. However, in 2005 and 2019, human-to-human transmission of the Andes virus was reported in South America. The early symptoms of hantavirus are similar to flu and include fever, severe muscle aches and fatigue. Two prevalent strains of the flu virus, which were nearing their peak when Lane first began displaying symptoms, have killed more than 11,500 people, according to the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Number 7. Influenza. Influenza, commonly known as the flu, is an infectious disease caused by an influenza virus. Symptoms can be mild to severe. The most common symptoms include high fever, runny nose, sore throat, muscle and joint pain, headache, coughing, and feeling tired. These symptoms typically begin 2 days after exposure to the virus and most last less than a week. The cough, however, may last for more than 2 weeks. In children, there may be diarrhea and vomiting, but these are not common in adults. Diarrhea and vomiting occur more commonly in gastroenteritis, which is an unrelated disease and sometimes inaccurately referred to as stomach flu or the 24-hour flu. Complications of influenza may include viral pneumonia, secondary bacterial pneumonia, sinus infections, and worsening of previous health problems such as asthma or heart failure. Influenza spreads around the world in yearly outbreaks, resulting in about 3 to 5 million cases of severe illness and about 290,000 to 650,000 deaths. About 20% of unvaccinated children and 10% of unvaccinated adults are infected each year. Number 8. Dengue. Dengue fever is a mosquito-borne tropical disease caused by the dengue virus. Symptoms typically begin 3 to 14 days after infection. These may include a high fever, headache, vomiting, muscle and joint pains, and a characteristic skin rash. Recovery generally takes 2 to 7 days. In a small proportion of cases, the disease develops into severe dengue, also known as dengue hemorrhagic fever, resulting in bleeding, low levels of blood platelets and blood plasma leakage, or into dengue shock syndrome, where dangerously low blood pressure occurs. Dengue is spread by several species of female mosquitoes of the Aedes type, principally A. aegypti. The virus has 5 types. Infection with one type usually gives lifelong immunity to that type, but only short-term immunity to the others. Subsequent infection with a different type increases the risk of severe complications. A number of tests are available to confirm the diagnosis, including detecting antibodies to the virus or its RNA. Dengue has become a global problem since the Second World War and is common in more than 120 countries, mainly in Asia and South America. Each year between 50 and 528 million people are infected and approximately 10,000 to 20,000 die. Number 9. Rotavirus. Rotavirus is a genus of double-stranded RNA viruses in the family Reoviridae. Rotaviruses are the most common cause of diarrheal disease among infants and young children. Nearly every child in the world is infected with a rotavirus at least once by the age of 5. Immunity develops with each infection, so subsequent infections are less severe. Adults are rarely affected. There are 9 species of the genus, referred to as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H and I. Rotavirus A, the most common species, causes more than 90% of rotavirus infections in humans. Rotaviral enteritis is usually an easily managed disease of childhood, but in 2013, rotaviruses caused 37% of deaths of children from diarrhea and 215,000 deaths worldwide, and almost 2 million more became severely ill. Most of these deaths occurred in developing countries. What virus do you think is the worst? Tell us about it in the comments below.